And the only thing I can say to neoconservatives who are complaining now is this: it's all your fault. The reason you can't protest without thinking the Obama administration is watching you is you yourself. You decided you wanted to put everybody under government surveillance, and now you are in the crosshairs. Now that you disagree with the current administration, you're the one who is the threat to the country.
Welcome to the watch list.
Exactly. You've been added. And now that's it. Now it's everybody. Now everybody's being watched. Conservatives, liberals, Republicans, Democrats, anybody who wants to see some real change affected. Everybody wave. There's probably a satellite looking at us right now. How's it going over at the Pentagon, guys? You watching us? You getting this? Good. All right. Our next speaker, you have all heard of him, I'm sure. One moment. Well, he's Dr. Murray Sabrin. He's a former candidate for New Jersey State Senate. He was endorsed by Dr. Ron Paul. He's a professor of finance, correct? A professor of finance, so he knows what he's talking about. And he wants to talk to you for a few minutes about how we can really get change going. So why don't you just give a big round of applause for Dr. Murray Sabrin.
Thank you. Okay. Where are my fellow New Jerseyans who live We have to clean up New Jersey as well as Washington, D.C. How do you like this global warming day? Well, if the Fed officials think it's warm today, wait till 10 millions of people come marching on the Temple on the Potomac and start saying, abolish the Fed once and for all. We all know there are very important dates in American history. July 4th, 1776, the beginning of the Civil War in April 1861. But there are two other dates that are extremely important. Gesundheit. And that is December 23rd, 1913, when President Wilson signed the Federal Reserve Act into law. Basically undoing the American Revolution. And earlier that year, the 16th Amendment to the Constitution was passed, giving us the income tax. So in 1913, the principles of Jefferson and Washington and Adams were overturned in the stealth revolution, and we're feeling the pain today, nearly 100 years later. And then on August 15th, 1971, President Richard Nixon at 9 p.m. on a Sunday evening gave us a financial and economic Pearl Harbor when he declared the United States government bankrupt, when he told the foreign holders of dollars, we no longer can honor our commitment to pay you gold for the dollars that you hold. Basically saying that the United States government word is worth nothing. Woo! And it is worth nothing, as we all know. So what we have today, ladies and gentlemen, is what's happened throughout world history. The debasement of our currency, from clipping the coins, from putting base metals into coins, and then confiscating the people's money, the real money, under President Roosevelt in 1934. And what this means is today our standard of living is going down every year. You know it, I know it, the political and financial elites know it. And that's why we have to stand up to them, stand up to these big government billionaires, from Michael Bloomberg in City Hall, from John Corzine in Trenton, to Henry Paulson in New York City, to Warren Buffett in Nebraska. All these big government billionaires feed off of this system that makes us poorer and poorer and poorer and increases the wealth gap in the United States. This system cannot continue. Let me give you a little brief history of the last 100 years. 1917, the Russian Revolution. War and the debasement of the currency gave us communism in Russia. In 1923, the collapse of the German mark gave us Hitler in 1933. War and inflation gave us fascism and Nazism in Europe. And in 1949, war and the debasement of the Chinese currency gave us Mao Zedong. There is a pattern in the last 100 years. Central banks and war are intimately related. We have this gross test war in the Mideast that has to end, and it's only made possible by the central bank that keeps on feeding the big military-industrial complex in Washington, D.C. You know it and I know it. When we get rid of the military-industrial complex, we get rid of central banking, we will finally achieve the vision of the Founding Fathers: liberty, prosperity, and peace. It will take the hard work of every one of us over the next several years, because we are going to see a financial holocaust in this country. The Federal Reserve has literally created trillions of dollars in 6 months. Ben Bernanke's hero must be Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe, where they have $100 billion notes. We will probably see something like that in the United States if we don't end it soon. The Federal Reserve is engaged in the most reckless policy in the history of this country, in the history of this planet. Every nation depends upon U.S. dollars, stable U.S. dollars. Instead, we have a central bank that has thrown caution to the wind, that's continued to fund the military-industrial complex, the entitlement state. We are $100 trillion in debt, not the $10 trillion. That's the unfunded liabilities that every youngster in this country will have to pay over the next 75 years. We are headed down the slippery slope of monetary destruction, and with that will come currency controls, capital controls, wage price controls, immigration controls, internal migration controls. We are headed for the most comprehensive police state in American history because of the debasement of our currency.